A big shout out to our sponsors this week, P&I, Pure Nutritional International. The P&I brand is an all-inclusive brand of affordable nutritional products that can be used by all, regardless of age or physical ability. You can find all the information in the description. Give them a follow, guys. Welcome to the Billy Moore podcast, and my special guest today is none other than ex-prison officer Neil Samworth, also known as Sam. Right? And how are you, mate? Thanks for coming down. Appreciate
Thanks for inviting me, mate. I'll do, guys.
Okay, so
right, first question you want to know. Tony, who was my dad, never called him dad. Tony. I were two, my sister were one. Bit of a lad, fighter, proper fighter. Didn't look after my mother, weren't asked about us, took off, like I said. We saw him infrequently, but he picked Neil, so sling it. My mother always called me Sam. The only person that called me Neil was my nan, bless her, and last couple of years she called me Sam, so there you go.
And I felt like I'd made a mistake when I sent you a message and I was calling you Neil, and you went, no, it's Sam.
Listen, I don't take offence, mate, and you call me whatever you like.
Getting the queue, being called a few things.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've wrote a book and it's called
Strangeways, a prison officer's story, by Neil Samworth. It's on Amazon. If you got a Kindle, it's 99 pence at the moment. Yeah, so I never expected to write a book, but it has led me to other things. Come out June 14th, 2018. How do I know that? How do I remember it? Because it was my missus's birthday. I were in London being interviewed and going on telly, and I forgot her birthday. So there you go, mate.
So you can remember that day very well.
Yeah, she don't let me forget it.
So tell me, Sam, why what motivates you to write a book?
Darren G.
Darren.
Yeah, we know Darren G, don't we? Yeah. So I saw him on James English podcast. He mentioned me in not a bad light, which is, He says, I were talking about it 2007, roundabout in Strangeways. I can't remember that. However, every screw, I don't mind being called a screw. Obviously, a lot of people get offended. Yeah. Prison officer, it don't bother me. Everyone's always said they're going to write a book. So I must have been talking about it then. You know, I thought I'm going to be in job forever. 2015, September 4th, got injured. September 5th, my last shift at Strangeways. I were on sick. Got finished August 2016. Not in a good place, mate. My physical health was shite. Blood pressure was through the roof. Everything else, cholesterol. Not in a good place. Mentally, while I was on sick, deteriorated. I become an absolute beast. There was no depression, pure anxiety, anger, road rage. I was an absolute nightmare for a couple of years. My missus and daughter suffered. So November 2016, it's my birthday. I'm flat on my arse. I can't see myself working. I'm in a really bad place. I just said to our lass, I'm going to write a book. Don't know what it said. I remember, look, straight over her head. Started Googling it. I don't know whether you did any of this, Billy, with your book. If you Google how to write a book or success rate, it's zero, mate. You know, out of 10,000 scripts, one might get read, they'll get binned. It's shite. But I decided we're going to do it. I got my prison diaries. When I said diaries, all you've had in them were your shifts. Yeah. If I come across someone who were interesting, I don't know why, during my career, I just write the name in back. Yeah. Billy Moore, yeah? And I'd remember all my interactions with you, whatever went off. Memory it's unreal. I'd look at my diaries, names, stories come, so I thought, right, book proposal. Did you do a book? How did you come about it with your book? Did you do a proposal, send it off, or did somebody come to you and say?
Oh, I found it really hard work. I knew we had a story, and I sat in a cell in Wandsworth prison, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I showed this education staff member an A4 piece of paper that I'd written about a time I spent in Thailand, and she encouraged me to write more. And from then, I just wrote a story that I sent to numerous.
From prison, did you say?
Yeah, sent it to numerous publishers who all refused, rejected. Oh yeah, well, wish you well.
I'm interviewing you now.
Yeah, yeah, wish you well. It's all all the best, and then one day someone just accepted it, and it was actually a guy called Derek Sharon in Thailand who had the book off me.
Really?
Initially, yeah.
Good stuff. So I bought a book off Amazon, how to do a book proposal. That's what you need to send off. It was shite. I binned it. Decided to find a ghostwriter. Sent off loads of emails. Bearing in this time, I'm telling you, I'm proper crazy, man. Not coping, not sleeping, angry. Anyway, I got a message back from a lovely lass called Deirdre Nuttall, Irish lass, ghostwriter. So I had a look online, and you could tell she was a nice person. Yeah. So she said, "Can I speak to you?" She phoned me up. I told her what I wanted to do. We arranged, I don't know, this was November, March, I think. She was going to come over, spend a day with me. Dictaphone, away you go. I never asked about cost. We had nothing, flat broke, mate. Anyway, it was 1,500 quid. Sold me motorbike, sold all my shit on eBay, got money together. I didn't tell her last how much it cost, because like I said, we were flat on his arse. She come over, spent a day with her, lovely lady. Met her at airport. I was stood next to her. I'd looked at her picture. She'd looked at mine, was stood next to each other. She phones like, I goes, hello. She turned, she went, you Sam? I went, yeah. Anyway, picked her up, 2 hours in car, which is, it weren't awkward. I'd never met her. 2 hours stuck in traffic in Manchester. Spent day with me, went home. I never sworn in front of her. She did me a synopsis, which is first part of your book. And then a book proposal, you have a synopsis, chapters, all your chapters roughly, a couple of paragraphs and a chapter in full. As it's coming back to me, she's feeding back to me. I'm reading it, it's amazing. However, cell-fires are extremely scary. That's how it said, not like fucking terrifying or whatever. So I sort of said, Deirdre, we're going to have to
compromise on a few bits.
So I'd change a bit and put a few F-bombs in and that, and send it to her. We got some, and I was dead chuffed. So she said, right, could take years.
Yeah.
The lass who wrote Harry Potter or whatever, it took her 4 years for someone put her script up. Anyway, I got an agent very quickly by chance, North Bank Talent Agency, Martin Redfern. His secretary got literally a desk full of scripts that were going in bin, never been read. Mine were on top, picked it up, thought it looked professional, give it him. He phoned me. We tweaked it a bit. This is all in space of 6 months, so I'm dead lucky. He says, look, Sam, I think we've got a good story, try and get you a deal. Within a month, he got 3 offers on the table. Pan Macmillan, who I went with, were like, yeah, put it out there, real, use your name, use Strangeways. The other two wanted to do it anonymous, bit windy ass, with Official Secrets Act and that. Yeah. And there you go, book's out. At the time, not well. I did loads of interviews. We're down in London, our lass's birthday, so that's 218. 219. I'm looking back now, Billy, from 220. I still weren't well. This has been my best year. Yeah. And it's 5 years now since I did my last shift. So that's where we're at. So
thanks for that. It's not easy, is it, really, to write or even get, like, see what you're talking about when the way you went through that, the book proposal, the chapters. I think you were quite lucky in that way, because for me, it was like, I never had no idea. I'd go to the library in the prison.
Yep.
I'd look at the back of the books. She wrote it and see the addresses and just sends off from the prison. Like I said, loads of rejections. I had a synopsis. Thought it sounded really well. Like I said, this guy snapped it up in Thailand and gave me a time management to finish it in. He said, who's writing it? I said, I am. He said, okay. He said, it's well written. Crack on with it. So I did. It took me the prayer before dawn took. I started in March 2010 whilst I was in Wandsworth prison.
Yep.
And it was in publication and on shelves by March 2012. That's how long it took. So Yeah, it did take a few years. It's not easy.
That's still good, though. I mean, when you say look at, I back myself, right? I knew I got stories. If you're going to work in a nick,
Yeah.
and you want to do a book as an ex-officer, ex-screw, Strangeways, it's got to be the most infamous jail in this country, hasn't it? Because of riots. Sadly, lots of people contact me and ask me about a book, and I tell them same story I've told you. You know, the last Deirdre Nuttall, who came over from Ireland, she was absolutely over the moon when I got an agent, and I sent her a copy when I got my first books. She said it's unbelievable. You know, I've worked with a lot of people and that. So yeah, it was all good.
Yeah, I think it is. Sometimes, like, see, I think it was unbelievable for me to get as far as I did without an agent, without anybody assisting me, without any support. Just a belief that I could achieve something.
So why did you know, were you just at a loss and thought?
No, that's what it was. It's because I remember, and I've wrote a second book now, which gets published early next year. Right, I've got an agent, so I went about it the right way. Everything's a bit different this time. Royalties are a bit better. You know,
you don't get rich off a book, do you, mate?
You don't. Trust me, you don't. But a bit more savvy in what for me, what it was. I knew I had a story, you know,
which is the same as me.
Exactly, yeah.
And I had a belief. Our last, bless her, Amy, I'll mention her name, she always likes that.
Yeah.
I remember, honestly, I looked at her Billy, and it was one of them. She rolled her eyes like that's gone right over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she admit she didn't believe it. And right up until the point, you know. However, I was not well for 2 years. I was really bad. 2016, 2017, 2018, probably not a lot better. You think you are at the time. You think... I don't know.
See, this is part of your journey and part of your survival story. And
of course it is.
It's the same experience for me. It was like, I'd been in austerity. It was quite barbaric. It was inhumane. I'd lived it, and people wanted to know how I survived. And the reality was, I just kept breathing. I just kept moving forward. You know, there was something within me that said, you know, just don't give up. And I've seen people give up and fall to the wayside in these prisons, end their life. No, literally just end the life. It was sad to see, and I didn't want to go down that road. You know, I was subjected to violence. I was subjected to threats of rape, and I just carries on.
Do you have nightmares now? Do you sleep well?
I sleep well. Well, to be fair, no, I don't sleep well, and that's. I don't know. I don't think that's got anything to do with my experience. I think it's just fucking. Because I need to get up in the middle of the night for a piss, to be honest, you know what I mean?
That certain age.
Yeah, I'm at that age, you know, I'll have to admit it. But yeah, no, so I don't have nightmares. I did initially, I had more nightmares about me dad and what I was put through as a kid, more than I did as a prisoner in Thailand.
Did that put you on your track, as it were, to criminality? Sadly, right, like, let's get into this.
Come on then.
The thing that's really fucked me up, right? I mean, one of my mates said the other week, he says, why don't you let all this drop, right? So I'm going to do another book. I've got another, like yourself, I've got another book deal, which is, for me now, I'm not proud. I would never use that word. Put it this way, my mum and my nan who are up there, I'd be proud of me. Yeah. Second book, you know, I want to put it out there. I want to put some more out there. The thing that is absolutely knacking me up, I am a caring person, which belies me looks, you know. I've always played rugby, 6 foot, 18 stone, and I look like a screw, what everyone would think a screw would be, don't I?
Yeah. No, I've been on the receiving end. It's like, you know, an old fucking screw.
This, right, let's mention this on way down on bike. Like I've said to you before we started, this is novel for me. It's the first time I've been interviewed by somebody who's like hardcore, done a lot of time.
Yeah.
We are definitely opposite sides of it. Yeah. Why are you looking at me like that? That's a bit scary. I'm looking. No, this is it. This is what, you know.
See, my experience was, right, going to jail was like, it was us and them. As you know, Sam, it's us and them.
Yeah, definitely.
We get into little cliques, especially Scousers in prisons out of time. You know what I mean?
I've had my fair share of dealing with Scousers.
Yeah.
We're not the, I don't think we're the greatest. We're not the greatest like sort of role models for prisoners when we're on tour, are we? You know what I mean?
Not really. Have you ever come across Tommy Beveridge or heard of him?
No.
Okay, we'll leave that then. He caused me a few problems. He was probably a bit before your time, maybe big in sort of 80s and that. So,
yeah.
But yeah, Forest Bank. So Forest Bank private prison. You've got your own prison in Liverpool. I've never been past it like alt course. I used to say it wrong. I didn't know what it were. So private prison, it is what it is. However, every single Scouser that landed, everyone on wing. I can't do your accent. I'd never attempt to. Get me back to fucking Liverpool. They'd end up down block on dirty protest, smashing up. Get me back to Liverpool. Same conversation. Listen, lad. We're going to phone governor at Liverpool. All right, yeah. We've got this lad, Smith, down block. He's a Scouser. He wants to come to Liverpool. What's he doing down block? Smashing up dirty protest. Phone goes down. I don't know what you mean, boss. No one's going to take you on dirty protest from a block here. But...
And can you explain to our listeners what a dirty protest is?
Right, dirty protest, now called dirty conditions. It's the use of, call it whatever you like, but it's shite. Whether that's spreading it on the cells, not a lot do actually. Usually spread it on the prison cell, on walls and stuff like that. It makes, for me, not everybody, a lot of people don't have the stomach for it. I don't know whether you've ever indulged in that. For me, it makes the job more difficult, and that is it. You know, it's a bit of inconvenience.
Do you think it's effective?
You're not going to gain anything by being on dirty protest other than keep staff away from you.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people. I've seen people who are mentally ill. It all comes under the same umbrella. Obviously, it started in Ireland, Maze Prison, you know, your IRA, political prisoners and that, covering themselves in shite, blanket protests. There's a lot of stigma around it, and a lot of people won't understand it. A lot of prisoners, I remember, I'll tell you about this lad. I can never remember his name. I think it was Connolly. When I worked on healthcare at Strangeways, we used to use segregation yard. Yeah. So we didn't have his own exercise yard. So I take my 13 nut jobs or whatever. When I say nut jobs, I'm not being offensive to people. We have people on there who are really ill.
Yeah.
We got blaggers on there, people who've been ill from life, and then people with sort of, you got a wide spectrum.
Just manipulating the system.
Yeah. Some, not a lot. They didn't usually stay long on there because if you're not mentally unwell and I put you on a wing full of people, you're going to want off. Nice summer's day, phone the segregation because we had to have permission. Come on from external, there's an external gate. Brought my geezers on. I got other side of another gate. Watch them hours exercise. We got 2 Cat A lads on the yard next to them. 2 black lads, as I remember. Anyway, this lad, we'll call him Connolly. Yeah. Something similar. He was a personality disorder. You'll come across a lot of them. Some of the most troublesome prison I've dealt with, personality disorders. It comes under mental health umbrella now. Whether it should or not, I don't know. Different treatment. Anyway, this lad, for whatever reason, I smelt him before I saw him. So there's another Yorkshire lad next to me, Gilly. There were about half a dozen of us in Strangeways. We all played rugby, and we sort of kept it balanced. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's going to kick off, you want a Yorkshire lad round. That'll piss all Manx off, but who cares? So he's a Yorkshire lad like me, smoker. So he's having a fag. So I turned round. I says, have you farted? So he started laughing. He says, it's you that. I says, it's not. Next minute, gate, I've got 12 lads almost, coming over the top. Mr. Samworth, get us off, get us off. Move. Connolly, butt naked, completely. Hands down here, like diarrhea. All over. It absolutely stank. Yeah. Horrendous. The 2 black lads, incidentally, are as far away from him in corner at Seg Yard, screaming. I mean, literally, get us off, get us off. I've never ever seen anyone from an ethnic background on a dirty protest. There you go. It's always been white lads. So that's it. It's use of shit. People who are mentally unwell, quite disturbingly enough. I don't have nightmares as such now, but I think a lot about things I've seen. Yeah. I can't help that. It's probably because I'm going down that route, but people eating shit and stuff like that.
Well, it's like the likes of Strangeways and Walton were really volatile prisons. It's like my first night ever in HMP Walton, I was 21 years old and I got put down at block, right? And I remember why. At the time before I was trying to play the system, I'd gone in, I had an addiction problem. I wanted to see a doctor. They said, we'll see you tomorrow. I needed medication right now. Not now, but I needed it now. I was rattling. And so I said I was going to kill myself if I didn't see the doctor. That was the first thing I said. I'm suicidal. You suicidal, are you? Okay. We'll see about that. They took me down a segregation unit and put me in this suit. In a bare shell. It was freezing cold.
Strip cell.
Yeah, they put me in a strip shell. Put me in a shell within a shell. Down in the block and left me there all night. And it was the most horrifying experience I had that first evening. You know, I was a young kid. I was frightened. I just wanted to I don't know what I wanted, but I didn't want to feel the way I felt. You know, the next day, I remember Mr. Marty come in. He went, did you feel like killing yourself now? I went, no. Fuck. You know what I mean? Just put me back on population. And that was it. I always remember that, my first night in there.
Do you remember any at Seg staff?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Haigs?
Yeah.
Lynn and Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good friend. Well, Bob's sadly no longer with us.
Yeah.
But Lynn's still...
Mr. Haig.
Yeah?
He was a tough customer, like.
Was he?
Yeah. He had a few... there was a few of them as well. My bar. Have you ever heard of him?
No. The Haigs come from... obviously come from Liverpool to Strangeways, like no working on K-Wing.
Yeah.
But they were both, you know, salt of the earth type people.
Did you get on well with them?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Both very different. Lynn, if she ever sees this, was definitely... But she looked after us. Christmases are spent on wing. She cooked dinners. I were on their div, which is just their shifts. Every weekend, quid. 2 bacon, 2 egg, 2 sausage, hash browns, mushrooms, you know what I mean? Real people. Not the sort of people away from the job you'd look at and think they were prison officers.
Yeah.
So, well, it's nice that, you know, people have crossed paths and that.
Yeah, I mean, probably not at the best of times.
Well, you probably weren't in a good place, eh?
I wasn't in a good place. I mean, it was all... I was never, right? I mean, the last time I'd served any time in the prison system was in Walton, and I ended up diagnosed with cancer. I was in recovery from addiction. I'd been clean for 5 years. My life had took 190-degree turnabout. I had a job in the NHS, you know, the relationship, at the house, a car, everything that you could dream of.
Yep.
You know, and I was doing positive things in the community, and I got diagnosed with cancer. I was given medication, and
Are you clear now?
Yeah. I'm a few years clear now, but he ended up having a brief period of like insanity. I relapsed back into addiction, snowballed massively, and ended up back in prison.
When you're saying set with like mental health, not good.
Yeah, I was. Put it this way: you get diagnosed with something.
Is that what put you into it?
Yeah. It was a life-threatening illness. I lost the will to live. I was stage 3 cancer. My girlfriend left me. I lost my job. And I had no money to pay the rent. And I was slowly slipping into that abyss. So I started using more medication, which eventually turned into heroin and crack cocaine. Before I know it, I'm committing crime.
Did you use that when you were younger?
Yeah. See, that was me downfall. It was like, from the age of 16, I was hooked on a drug of some sort of another name. Yeah. It was just, I was just in and out of institutions all my life because of it.
Do you know what? We've all had dark places, haven't we? I've had some dark places in my life at times, but I've never really turned to anything. I have. I eat me. early 20s when we're in a bad place, it's probably a good job. You know, I would eat for Britain. My weight had ballooned to a 3 stone or whatever. I never really touched drugs or all like that. So I don't think people understand addiction. If you talk about smack, I know in my life 2 people who are living normal lives now, maybe 15, 20 years through not taking that, but only 2. I've seen a lot of people, good friends, fall by the wayside and that. I'll tell you a story about one lad. I think about this lad a lot as well. It's really weird. At one bit, I was unemployed, 4 mates. We all had bikes. We were renting in Firth Park in Sheffield, which is, you know, again, it's another working class, you know, sort of place. Anyway, I got to know this lad's brother quite. I won't use his name because he's probably still upsetting me if you saw it. This lad's brother saw 14, 15 heroin addict, smackhead, whatever you want to call them. When I met him, he was 28, 2 young sons, 4 university lecturer. His missus university lecturer, big house, everything, a lot. Got to know him really well over a couple of years. I liked him. I just, you know, some people, you get on with people and these people you really sort of hit it off with. Anyway, we went out one night, bit of a pub crawl. Him and his brother having a row. He texts off, says, "What's up?" He says, "He's going to score." I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "He's going to score." I don't know what he said. Anyway, 3 months later, his missus found him in the bathroom, needle stuck out of his arm. Gone. And I think about it, I can't, you know, get my head around it.
Why?
No, yeah. I just can't get my head around it.
Well, it's the same, Sam. For years I was asked why I was doing it, what was wrong with me. My mum would always, like, I'd have my mum sobbing. And the contributing factors were to escape reality. There was a lot of stuff going on in the background growing up. I chose to suppress that with drugs. I wanted to fit in with the crowd, and that kind of took me. I realised that, like, my problem didn't just stop at one. You know, one was too many and 1,000 was never enough. That scenario. But so it was that cycle, that pattern, and that's the reason why I was in and out of institutions most of my life. Not because I was looking to financially improve my life and harm others. I developed a habit that I needed to fund. I was powerless around what I was doing. And I say that because I was doing things that I didn't want to do, and I was using when I didn't want to use, if that makes any sense. I'd have drugs and I'd be shopping at the same time thinking, what is fucking wrong with me? Why can't I stop? And every time I went to prison, they just fucking locked the door and threw away the key, in a sense. I'd ask for help in a sense of, like, where's the carrot team? You know, and they'd come and they'd chat a load of shit and they weren't where to carry. Anyway, and in the end, it was like, fucking hell, what have I got to do to get acknowledged there? What have I got to do to get noticed? And I climbed on the roof in Walton Jail in 2003. 14 of us climbed up there. And
you got a time for that?
No. There was 14 of us. We were up there for 14 hours. No, at the time, I got a sheet, a nicking that said I was not in the right place at the right time. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't in my fucking place. I got 28 days, but I ended up down the block for about 8 months in Leeds. So I spent a long time in Leeds in Armley. On these unlocks, these 8-man unlocks, they had the 2 SOs, 2 screws coming to your door, taking you on exercise, marching your back. I had 2 kids who had hung themselves in the time that I was there. I was in between them, in the block. Entered the life. It was quite sad. All the screws were really being really nice to us at the same time, know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pampering us, "You're okay, everything alright? You sure?" Running to our doors. And the other time, you know, it was just fucking left to rot. But yeah, you know, all I ever did was just...
Do you think, because, again, when I'm coming down here, I'm thinking about things, you know, when people go on about hindsight, I don't like that word, me.
Yeah.
Hindsight is a word that you shouldn't use ever because it's usually apportioning blame. So I like reflection, me. This year I've done a lot of reflecting on my life, a lot of reflecting on things I've done. For me, you never beat the system. You know, you might fight the system, you dirty protests, you smash ups and things like that. But do you honestly think anyone has ever beat the system?
No. That personally,
I don't take.
You've only got to look at Charlie Bronson, Robert Maudsley.
Yeah.
These people who are just in cages, in secure units.
I'm hoping he's changed his name again, Annie Bronson.
Salvatore.
Bronson, yeah. I'd like to think that he will get out.
I would, yeah.
I'd like to chat to him. I'm sure if he reflects on things, some of the stupid things he did, but you can't beat it, can you?
I read about him in the FHM magazine. I was in Stafford prison. That was about, I think, around about the time Princess Diana died. I remember it because we worked in our cell all day and they were playing pipe music.
Let me tell you something. I met her. I worked at a company, Westall Richardson's. They won Queen's Award for Export. It was the third time they won it, so we got told we were going to get royal visit, didn't know who, and it was Charles and Diana. So, usual thing, painting machines, painting walkways, you know, the day come. We had a steeplejack come to put a flag up. They had Queen's Award flag and Union Jack, yeah, and he had an heart attack on the roof. This is 10 o'clock in the morning, the visit were 2. They left him up there, covered him with flag and left him up there 4 hours because they thought they hadn't got time to get him down before Charles and Diana come. But the reason why I talk about her, what a beautiful lady, I remember I was stood in a doorway, so when they come, I opened door, let them pass through. Absolutely stunning. Do you know something about her? Like when you see movies and that, and you see these angels with a thing.
Yeah.
Stunning.
She had a presence.
Very much so. You could just tell she was just, I don't know, but she was just beautiful. Anyway, sorry to...
No, going back to Stafford, I was doing over 1,000 press-ups in an hour in the cell. And I wrote to Charlie Bronson because he broke a lot of records. He broke a lot of records. And I wrote to him, never in a million years thinking he'd get this letter, telling him that I broke his record, I beat him all day long, blah, blah, blah. My name's Billy, you're a big hero, as you do, you're done for me. I'm from Liverpool, and I thought nothing of it, posted it. You know, you write a lot of letters because you're bored. And 6 weeks later, I get an A4 brown envelope with a picture in it. Some crazy fucking picture of some camera sticking out of some fella's head. It was just bizarre. And a little note off Charlie Bronson saying, "You fucking well done, you scout fucking cunts." My son's from Liverpool and supports them as well. I think his son was from Chester, I'm not too sure. But yeah, that was nice that he got back in touch, you know what I mean? So yeah.
He's, you know, like I say, I hope he gets out me, but I'm sure if he looks back and reflects on it.
What's the worst, right? I know he's a bit of a tough customer. What's the worst experience you've had with an individual inmate in Strangeways?
Right. I'll give you a few examples because what you think might be my worst experience, it's not a brag this, Billy. In life, I have coped with shocking things well, you know. If we go back to when I was about 19, I worked at Westall Richardson's kitchen knife manufacturers. We had a polishing machine. Old-fashioned this. 2 rollers, about this long, big rolls. You hang blades on here.
Yeah.
Blades go down round and it polishes them. So this lad who's operating it has got one jammed. They used to get jammed. So he's tried to get it out. He hadn't turned the machine off and it's ragged him in. Rollers are going in. So he's in up to here now. Everything's gone. Skin, bone, sinew, tissue. It's all up here. He's still got his overalls on.
Yeah.
He's passed out. He's hanging.
This was an inmate?
No, this is in a kitchen knife manufacturer's. This is where I worked, my first job.
Yeah.
So he's an employee. Nothing to do with prison, this. But I remember it well. So the old guy who at fitter we had to take this machine apart with spanners. There were no sockets, nothing like that. Big spanners. We took it in turns of holding up 20 minutes. Yeah. And the thing about these rollers, he got arm. Now he could stink it. His arm were burnt. It was literally bone and everything's up here. So I held him up and undo it. And I remember after that, thinking back that maybe I should have been more upset than I were. It did affect me, definitely, but it's just, I think it's how you handle adrenaline and a lot of stuff. So in the prison, again, it's not bragging. It's not, you know, I've seen this, I've seen that. Some people are like that.
So you become desensitized to a few things?
No. Desensitized is a good word to use, but it was, I felt for people. You know, if someone were harming or whatever, you have to understand, self-harming, 99% of it is manipulation in prison. You'll have seen it.
Yeah.
For instance, yourself, you know, I want drugs and I'm going to kill myself. You end up in a special cell.
Yeah.
I saw a geezer cut his throat. Not pleasant, but I'm talking to him. And the thing was, we were on lockdown, so there's only me there. I got one of the nurses to come. I knew him. If I'd have opened the door and gone in, I'm on a no-win here. I shouldn't have done that in lock. Should have had another person there. And he was the sort of guy that if I did, he might go at it more. So I'm talking, why are you doing that, John? Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, not pleasant. Same lad, a couple of months later, cut his hand down to wood with a razor blade. You know what I mean by down to wood?
Yeah, to the bone.
Yeah, there's no, you know, he's talking to me. Fucking like that. Why are you doing that again, John? Same again. It were a mess. Didn't bleed a lot. His throat didn't bleed a lot either. Not like on films. However, it was probably half an inch away from cutting something and bleeding to death.
Yeah.
He covered them wounds in shit a few days later. Refused antibiotics. It all started festering and that. Me and they'd be dead. You get blood poisoning. He lived. Most people, that'd be horrendous. It was horrendous. It weren't pleasant. I think one of the most disturbing things, I've talked about this before, not in any detail. There was a lad, we'll just call him Paul.
Okay.
He's one of them people who ends up in prison. Sadly, too many people end up in prison who have had bad childhoods, been abused, battered, or whatever. That is it's endless, and it just, I don't know where to go with that. Anyway, he's one of these people who from an early age has been mentally unwell. So he's not got depressed, he's not got anxious, he is mentally unwell. All his time in prison were for knob shit, you know. He'll be kicking off somewhere, coppers turn up, you know, mental health don't come into it. You just get battered, wrapped up and sent to prison for whatever. He was about my age, played pool with him, could have a conversation. He was fully aware of his mental health, just a normal person who were born, whether it's in hereditary. Anyway, he bumped heads with a psychiatrist. We had a psychiatrist who says, I'm changing your meds. So he looked at him, he says, don't change my meds. My mate was there, Karen Bradbury, lovely lass, mental health nurse. She's saying, just listen what he's got to say, you know, voice of reason and that. I'm sat there, psychiatrist, I'm changing your meds, you've been on them too long. Don't do that. I'm going to put you on this, don't do that. He'd got a 15, 20 year history of meds that he reeled off. He knew what he'd been on this year, that year, what worked or whatever. Psychiatrist, I'm changing him. He said, well, stop taking him and you take me to hospital. So psychiatrist, you know, I've got no love for psychiatrists, me. I've met some good ones. A lot of them, it's about keeping people alive and medicating them. No empathy, understanding. Anyway, he stopped taking his meds that day. So it'd be like me and you playing pool now, 10 days later. And it was a gradual deterioration after 3 days, you know, not really talking to people, not wanting to eat, not drinking. 10 days, he stood in a cell. The day he went to mental hospital, naked, he'd been sticking things up his backside, bleeding from his backside, eating his own shit, rubbing it in his eyes, rubbing it in his ears, trying to pull his bollocks and dick off. And it's just 10 days from being, you know, think about him a lot. I know his name. Social media. right? There's a few sort of, you know yourself, there's a few dicks. Anyway, there's this little group of people who are dissecting my book, sort of like you're some sort of bad person and you shouldn't be telling these stories, yeah?
Are these ex-inmates or
No.
screws?
Well, a few of them are people who've been inside. They're people who think they know everything and
Yeah.
want to change the world. The thing is, about Paul, yeah?
Yeah.
He was incredibly unwell. Some people might not want to think that happens.
Yeah.
You know, people inserting things in this. It's not willful. You know, he's not thinking I'm going to stick things in my backside and hurt myself, like eating shit and stuff like that.
He's powerless.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But what I'm saying is this does happen. You
Yeah.
know, prison is not good for people like him. All we could do was try and get him to take diazepam, which we did every day, and he wouldn't take. And you just see that. But the thing is, nobody's going to tell his story. He's not going to know it. Same as your story. If you hadn't told it, what it's like, you know, when you're getting threatened with rape and shit like that, I can't even imagine. And, you know, that's bad. But then you get people ask the question, who's the hardest person you've come up against?
Yeah.
So, in my book, I talked about an incident with Darren G. Darren G is a big unit of a lad.
Danny.
Sorry.
Danny.
I stand corrected.
I know Danny well.
Right, so he's a big lad.
Yeah.
I've always said prison system creates people like him, got battered, senseless. He's a brute, strong, powerful, intimidating. But he's not the worst I've ever come across. The worst, nameless, 5'8", 10 stone, mentally unwell, 20 or 30 staff. To get him from the healthcare, down a set of stairs, through a double gate, 150 metres to the segregation unit, fighting all the way. When I say fighting, that's not 25, 30 people trying to punch him and kick him. You're carrying someone now. You're taught how to carry him. It goes out the window with mental health. You can't get cuffs on. The muscles are like steel. You can't put locks on.
No.
And the stamina is unreal. Them 25, 30 staff over 25, 30 minutes moving them, they'll be on their ass. You know, puffing and blowing, you're swapping all the time. So, you know, you get John cutting his throat and stuff like that and rubbing shit in his wounds and making a mess. Paul, and then you get people like that where it's just amazing the strength that some of these people get. So, and there's everything in between. But where I worked on healthcare, and one of old PAI's physical education instructors used to say, it'll get you on there. And it did, because I care about people. So, you know, I tell you what, I've met some ex-prisoners, friends with some now. Some of my friends don't understand that. And they always said, you never took anything personal. I didn't, you know. So if someone chucks a plate of food in my face, and after dinner they want a phone call or, you know, can I have a chat, I'll go and talk to them. I didn't take things personal. So,
Yeah.
it got to me like that. But these people, that Paul, 10 days, I'll never forget him.
Yeah. Well, there was an incident with me because I was refusing to go to Preston jail. I was in old course, it was a cushy number, didn't want to leave. For whatever reason, I was an undesirable. And the SO comes to me, Michelle, and said, look, pack your kit, you'll be moving this afternoon. And I've told him to fuck off. I'm moving nowhere. Straight away.
Are you on normal location?
I'm on normal location, so what they've done is they've locked the prison down. Right, locked the whole prison down. I'm fucking ready. I've took all my clothes off, I'm in my shorts. I've got baby lotion all over me. I'm ready for it. Right, this is it. I knew the score. I know what was going on. I wasn't going out without a fight. And I've got a lads opposite my cell shouting, Billy, the Germans are coming. There's fucking loads of them. And there was loads of them standing there. Because I've got a history, right? I'm game. I've got a history, and they're standing outside my cell. There's loads of them. But I know that when they come in, they can only come in like more or less one at a time.
Yeah, of course.
They can't come in like all at once.
Well, it's 3 at a time, but I tell you what, it has to be 3 tiny people to go through a cell door.
So they've come through my cell. I knew what's going on. They've come through my cell. The shields on, all the visors down. They gave me the option a few times. But you're going to go? no, fuck off, I'm not going. Bang, okay, get it. That's what I heard. Get it. They've come through. I've just jumped onto the top bunk. They're all running because they're charging in. Now they want to put, they want to pin you against the back wall. But what they've done is, so I've jumped onto the top bunk. They've just ran in and they've just pinned them all out themselves all over the place. And then I've dived on top of them. Don't know why, what possessed me to do that. And I'm fucking button visors and it's just what's happened is I've ran out of gas.
Well, you will, because you're not. If you were mentally unwell, you'd have probably gone 5-10 minutes.
But I never lasted more than 3 minutes.
I was going to say 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was gassed and I had my hands up my back and I was marched to reception and just put on a bus either way. Still, I never learnt my lesson. Right, when you're talking about fighting the system, I fought the system and always lost. Right, and what in the back of my mind, a part of me was thinking, I'll get a name for myself here. And that was out of fear. It was a coping mechanism because I was scared. I was frightened. And when people told me, you were nuts and you were on a bend and he's crazy, I attached all them labels as like a coping mechanism. You know, kept me safe. It kept you away from me.
Yeah.
You know, and it also had me in, you know, down a block many, many times.
So let me tell you what they'll be thinking, right? So me, when I were on K-Wing at Strangeways, we had shitload of planned removals and stuff like that. At that time, it was bouncing. You know, K-Wing, we took anybody and everybody. At one point, we had 36 gang members on from 2 gangs in Moss Side, Gooch and Doddington. 36. There's 6 staff on landing at night, and there's 36 lads from 2 different gangs. It was electric. Anyway, we used to get used on a lot of bend-ups, and you get used to it. Yeah, we weren't any better than anyone else, not superhuman. So somebody like yourself, I've come up with people against yourself. One of these gang members, we had to move him off the wing, right? So the thing is, a lot of people are normal. They'll know your reputation, they'll be shitting themselves. Me, you need someone who's a bit savvy. So this is how it should be. So Billy Moore's in there, yeah? Somebody should have already fed back, right? He's greased up, he's not going, he's going to fight, yeah? Go in with a bit of, you know, go in, have a look, because you can go behind doors. Do you know how many times that's happened? Con's gone behind doors, they've gone in, they've gone running in, and Con's come out behind them. I've seen that a few times, funny as fuck. But this particular lad, so same situation, right? He's got a reputation, this lad. A couple of years earlier, he mullered my mate. My mate was in a 3 officer team, because normally this 3 officer team, you're trained to go in arrowhead formation. So you have shield man, we're packed in behind it, yeah, trying to pin someone. Most people will be pin Billy, not going to fight like you. Very few do. Or people surrender, because I would imagine, stood in a cell, somebody slams a shield up and they're coming in. You must be
out of breath.
Yeah, it'll get to you. Anyway, this lad, there's me, a lad called Woody who's still in job, another lad called Ian who's not in job, right? So I'm 50. He's a bit older than me. Woody's a bit younger. This lad is an handful. He's mullered me mate and his mates in a similar situation a couple of years before. So I've said, listen, you know, we're going about this right way. And it must have got through to him. You know, we're there, we're all ready to go in. He surrendered, this lad, which he never did. Yeah, but vast majority of prison officers, youngsters, it's all about adrenaline. They don't know how to handle it, mate. You'll have been in that many situations, in boozers or, you know, in your jails or ready to fight. People don't know how to deal with that, do they?
No, yeah.
You know, somebody like yourself in a boozer or Danny G, people, they're not going to fight him. You know, there might be 100 people in the pub. If they all jumped on him, he's going to go down, but you're not going to do it. It's that fear factor. And that's the difference that people don't understand. You get prison officers who are bullies. Before I said this, I work with some great people. Yeah. Some really nice people. Some talkers, some funny people. People who had no bottle, but they were still good at job. Yeah. There's an element of bully boys. Yeah. They're not going to come in and bully you or somebody my size. Yeah, even though we don't judge a book by a cover, they're opportunists. Yeah. But the vast majority of prison officers are like all your mates. You know, just normal people, as I say. Although, if they've been in a while, maybe not that normal. And people don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever been there was I remember like coming down off the roof in Walton, and I took an iron down the block, a few kicks, had my wrist twisted up really bad. It was like, I remember...
It's painful, innit?
It is, and I remember exactly how it was, Sam. Right, there was a line of shells, and I heard, right, face the wall, hands behind your back. Right, so I knew they were going in. The door's gone in. I've heard screams, horrendous, horrible screams, right? It's getting closer to where I am, right? I'm thinking, fuck this, mate. The kid next door to me, we've got this pact. I'm not screaming either, right? Fuck this. Door's gone in on him. Ah! He's gone for it. They've had him and he's screaming. I'm straight away, right? I'm fucking ready. I mean, they've come in and he's had me. Straight away, I'm face to the wall, hands behind my back, prepare him, and he's twisting it, and it wasn't hurting me at the time. And he's, oh, we've got one here who thinks he's tough.
Hey, look at me, long forearms and that.
Short.
Yeah.
But he realised that, and then he really went to fucking town on me. Few kicks, few punches. Nothing that I didn't expect anyway, Sam. I deserved it. We were bounty.
Yeah, but you tell me this. We had an instructor now. He's no longer in job. A man who was a great lad. CNR instructor, Mick Bird.
Yeah.
He said, nothing more painful than being twisted up. You know, you want to punch someone while they're not going to feel it.
No.
There's nothing. You're powerless, which can be scary in itself, can't you? When your arms are twisted up and stuff like that, nothing is painful. I remember it from training. We used to have a yearly refresher. It'd be a week after. Pain. Plus the fact, if you got some nuggets who didn't know what they're doing, they could hurt you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Can I compare something with you?
Of course you can.
Like incidents that, that I've experienced myself. I remember being in Stafford prison, and it was 23-hour bang up. It was probably the bottom of the barrel for Cat C's. Yeah. Back in the day. Yeah. They sent everyone who was a bit of a rag ass. We're going to Stafford. They locked you up for 23 hours a day. It was shit. Everyone was kicking off. You're on the exercise for an hour. Now, we were on I was on the fourth landing. I remember Mr. Mason opened my door. We could smell smoke. We thought someone was making toast. We could smell smoke. Right. The fucking ass making toast in the afternoon. Bit bang on that, innit? I was selling this to my pad, mate. Next thing, there was plumes of it coming under the door. Yeah. Right. Boom, our doors opens. Right. There was no fucking routine. Get down them stairs. Get to the back, the exit, bang. It was thick, cloggy with smoke. Made our way downstairs. We're on the yard. We've been moved over to a little field. There's smoke coming out of this shell. Plumes of it. Right. We've heard screaming from staff members. Banging away. Can't get in there. Right. The kid on the inside of that cell was with a cellmate who had apparently fell asleep in his bed, right? This other guy has felt suicidal, went into the toilet, set fire to the bin, barricaded the cell. He couldn't get in. And he died. Both of them died in that cell. Okay, no. Right? But I remember it, right? It was like the helicopter flying in. They had to chop everything in to get in the cell eventually. The water's going in the hose. Yeah, but that's the sort of thing you're up against. Well, I would see stuff like that. How would it make you feel?
When I went at Forest Bank, that block were quite tough. Private sector then used to get shat on. We get buses coming from Franklin with 3 front block who run dirty protest. Yeah. We got told you're getting 3. Our seg's full, don't matter, clear it out, you're getting 3. When I went at Forest Bank, dealt with probably 5 cell fires in a couple of 3 months. Yeah. They're frightening, mate. They are frightening. There's the initial panic, that adrenaline dump or whatever. There was a lad, I'll talk about one then and go back to Forest Bank. When I went at Strangeways, there was a lad, he come from Wakefield, right? So Wakefield, long-term prison, high security estate, a lot more laid back than Strangeways. He got sent to Strangeways for whatever reason. So he's landed on K-Wing, he's not happy, this lad, he's kicking off. He kicked off with me in the morning, reminded me of you. I want my fucking meds and I want them now. So I put him behind his door. He's kicked off all day. I've gone home at dinner in the afternoon. He's set his cell on fire. So he's in a single cell on his own. He's gone under bed him. He's got a wet sheet over his head. He used the TV, got it going. It was a bad fucking fire. The lads that went in ended up with smoke inhalation, people on landing. It was a bad one. What went through his head, I don't know. What did happen to him, do you know what video link is?
Yeah.
Right, so video link, instead of sending people to court, you sit down, TV, you can seek court, whatever. He got whole of life for that fire in Strangeways. They did him for something to do endangerment of all the lives on the wing 200. It was a bad fire.
Yeah.
So he got lifed off. If we go back to Forest Bank, 2 Scousers, one of them's definitely dead. I don't really ever come across George Fendick.
No.
Bad smackhead, not liked, very manipulative. He did a good one. When I say a good one, it was well going before we knew. He'd put wet tissue round door, set it on fire. We ended up doing CPR on him. So people who know George Fendick, you know, later at Strangeways, you ever come across, yeah, we did CPR. What did you do CPR on that fucking rat Ford? You know what I mean? He weren't worth a toss. Just what you do. Another lad, I won't mention his name because of his crime, and there'll probably still be people who, what did him in a road rage, got a granddad out of a car, had a good go at taking his arm off, and same to old lady, passers-by stopped him anyway. His was another one. When we dragged him out of a cell, his clothing was steaming, arms were burnt, smoke coming out of his gob. We did CPR on him. Horrendous. Again, you were there, so you dealt with it. There were people there who didn't get hands on, who were in shock. Different people react in different ways. There's staff who would always get stuck in any situation, and there's other people who would step back out that way.
So, question.
Yep.
Right, Sam. So, Strangeways,
Yep.
right, before the riots, it was a fucking nightmare.
Yep.
Right. Did you ever meet any of the guys that were in the Strangeways riots?
Right. I'll tell you from 2 officers' point of views.
Yeah.
I won't mention them, but they were very honest. And I'll tell you from a lad who I'm going to interview on my own little podcast who were there.
Yeah.
Genuine story. So, what you have to understand about Strangeways riots, yeah? A lot's been written. So one of the lads who's now retired, he's quite a private person, so I won't mention his name. So he says, one day we're talking, he come to work on, I tell you what, this guy's 60 odd. So he's come to work on healthcare with me. So he's been in job forever. He says, Sam, I'm coming to the end of my career. They've asked me to come on here part-time with another guy to make up a full staff member. He says, I'm clueless. I've never been on here. It's scaring me a bit, but I'm willing to learn. Yeah. So that is somebody who's done 25, 30 years in job who's saying, you have to help me out on here. So one day we get to talking about riots. So he says, right, I'll tell you exactly. He was there. A lot of Strangeways staff got shipped out. Urban myth, not at all. What happened was they got most at jail back. A lot of prisoners surrendered. Shitloads surrendered. They got a lot of jail back. They were told to pull back to the gate from London. The poll tax riots were happening. Poll tax, then people, council tax as it is now. The government brought out this poll tax. People couldn't afford it. Working class were kicking off. It kicked off in London. They were getting battered by coppers. But what was on the news for, 25, 30 days? It was just Strangeways all over the world.
Yeah.
People who think that, these things aren't distractions. Obviously, it started on April 1st, but it was allowed to continue. The people who were in the know said at most it had gone 3 days. But obviously, when they pulled back and they got on the roof, it's going to go on a lot longer. He said the first 2 days were fucking scary. Yeah. Stuff getting slung at you and that. He said after that, you were counting pennies. The camera work that shows you them chucking stuff, everyone were back. They were recording then. So, yeah, them guys are up there chucking stuff. They weren't at risk at that time. The other lad said similar. He says it was almost like cops and robbers. The bottom jail, when I said bottom and top jail, two main buildings where they are prisoners. One's at top of hill, that's why it's called top jail, or the one's at bottom. The main gate onto the under centre, the gate's open this way towards you as you're walking in, I believe he said.
Yeah.
The prisoners barricaded other side, spent yonks doing it when you can just open gates like this and pull it in. And anyway, he says there were a lot of this, you know. You'd see some prisoners, they'd see you with shields, they'd run off. You'd see some prisoners, you'd run off, a lot of that sort of stuff. So that's how it were. The guy I'm going to interview, very private person, obviously when I get him on camera he won't be. So
is he an inmate?
Yeah, he was. Not one of these, he did get up on roof. He weren't chucking stuff. He says it was fucking scary as fuck. He surrendered. It could have been ended a lot sooner than it was. Yeah. You know, I've seen Alan Lord get interviewed. Absolutely every prison officer I've ever met hates him.
Yeah.
But I remember him saying, you know, specifically cameras and that when he didn't throw anything up roof, they weren't having him for that. But I do remember him saying, first time he went in block, similar age to you, 21, walked across the landing when you should walk round it, got rabbit punched in back of head, someone called him a black bastard. I can well believe that.
Yeah. And
that started his career against fighting the system.
I know Alan. I know Alan well, yeah.
Well, even if you're not going to beat it, you're not, are you? So, other media, it wasn't all glory in that. A lot of people at Strangeways who related stories at riots, their stories, the lad on healthcare said, how would he know? He got shipped off to Stafford, or he got shipped off. A lot of Strangeways staff were sent off to other places, other nicks. But that's a trait of prison officers, detect people's stories. Yeah. You know, war stories.
I train, and one of my closest friends, right, was one of the last people down off the roof in Strangeways, right. He was up there, John. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, John. I was with him this morning, and I was telling him I was coming to meet you. I mean, I always ask John. He won't go on tape, and he won't. He has been on that documentary. Here with Alan Lord, and he was talking about Paul Taylor being a romantic anarchist because he was a bit round a fucking bend, weren't he? You had Alan Lord, and I asked John about what his experience was, and it's fucking really detailed, and it's really. I'd love to have him sitting facing me now and share it, but he won't, and you know, and that's understandable. He's not interested in all that type of stuff. But his perspective was like they had that on fucking, you know, it was fucking locked down. You had the hot plates all against the main gates. They were cooking there fucking all day long. They were, you know, because I used to, how did you feed yourself and how did you survive? And it was just a protest, wasn't it, about the conditions, about the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course it was.
And he did say, because he's in the black minority as well at the time, and he you know, there was a lot of racism.
Yeah, of course there was.
Wasn't he Screws walking around with like flags? Is that true?
NF flags and stuff like that, allegedly. There were one or two people. So, you know, that 90s, I've sort of come along in 2000, you know, that sort of. I couldn't have worked in them times, me. I couldn't have stood by. I struggled to fit in anyway. Yeah. When I went to K-Wing, you know, I got called soft arse Yorkshire twat all the time, which didn't bother me. I was like one of them. If I'd said to you, I'm going to give you a phone call, and you've kept your head down all day and you're on basic regime or whatever, I'm going to give you a phone call. You know, they'd be all in office fucking giving it that. I weren't bothered. I'm not just saying that. I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have worked in them times. There was a couple who I worked with who used to have, you weren't supposed to, all you were allowed to wear was a POA badge, I think. You know, the Prison Officers Union. You weren't supposed to have badges. There were one or two that did. You know, George Cross and that, which for me is not racist, but you weren't supposed to wear it and stuff like that. and one or two prison officers caught endangered, wanted to be a bit controversial and that. I got called out by someone about racism, and they said, you know, have you ever seen any racist incidents? There's only one I can think of. It was a laugh. I'm sure she called someone the M-word, he kicked off, we ended up restraining him. If I'd have heard it, I would have bubbled her. However, you know, it's me lip reading, and she was a bit of distance away from me. But I worked with racists who weren't racist on the job.
Yeah.
The problem is, if you sort of look, when I worked there, people from minorities and that, not so much black lads.
And we're talking about more or less like foreign nationals now as well, because a lot of prisons now have got
the foreign national population's massive. If people knew how many foreign prisoners,
Romanians, Polish,
there's loads.
There's tons. Yeah.
You know, EU rules. I don't know when it come in. You can swap prisoners. We technically can get rid of all European prisoners, send them back to their own countries, and we take British prisoners back. That's never happened, as far as I know. Not one exchange has ever happened, but they can do that. Yeah. But certainly when I were there, foreign nationals made up a big percentage. And funnily enough, you bringing that up, I haven't seen that mentioned since I left.
Yeah.
Nobody said, well, how many of these, you know, prison population heading up to 85, 90,000 plus, too big. No one's mentioned how many foreign national prisoners. It's probably a no-brainer, is it? You get labelled a racist.
Yeah.
If I said now, 30,000 people, we can.
And it's not only that. It's difficult on the communication level as well between inmates and staff members.
I'll tell you something now. There's people that use that. There's people that speak perfect English. But my mate now, who works in a prison, I'm not going to give you a clue where it is because he's a good lad. He's still in job. He's the best mate. They've got an officer. They suspect his English is pretty good, but as it is now, he don't speak no English. So you need to go and search them and get exercise.
This is an officer?
This is an officer.
Yeah.
He's just got moved from there, Nick, to another prison. Yeah. But that's what you're facing now. If somebody hasn't got a good grasp of the English language, why are we giving him a job as a prison officer? I'll tell you why we're giving him one. Prison service. Diversity, mate. Diversity, multiculturalism. Yeah. Prison service pays a massive fine every year because 7% of people they take on are not from ethnic backgrounds.
Yeah.
How many white people in this country do you think want to do that job or would consider it? Millions, I'd think. Not a chance, especially if they watch these podcasts and read these books. So why is anyone going to go for that job?
I asked a staff member how he applied for the job, and he told me that he applied, right, and got the job online.
Yeah, it is now.
Online.
I've asked two of my mates to apply.
Yeah.
One's not working, and the other one is working. I've asked them to apply, so in my second book, I can discuss this because I get people our age, you know, let's just say 30 plus families, you know, people with a certain maturity, life experiences will get knocked back on this online. And one or two of them I've said, you know, go back to them, ask for some feedback, because obviously if you fail, what do you need to do? No feedback, they won't give feedback. All they're employing now, mate, is youngsters. Yeah?
Young, inexperienced.
Young, inexperienced, no life experience.
Arrogance.
Naive.
Yeah.
Vulnerable. A lot of young females. Again, this is another thing. There was an advert other week my mate directed me to for a female jail. It said males need not apply, and I understand why. In a female jail, I think they have a percentage, I don't know what it is, might be 70%, 80% of staff have to be females. Makes sense to me. I wouldn't want to work in a female jail. You know, I would think you'd be quite vulnerable. You know, come-ons and all that, and what you're going to see. I understand that. Male jail, when I was at Forest Bank, must have been 40, nearly 50% female staff.
It's mad, isn't it?
They're all youngsters, mate.
And they're all getting wolf whistles and subjected to loads of abuse.
Right, I'll say it exactly as it is, right?
Well, say it how it is, please, Sam.
The young. Yeah. When I was at Forest Bank, there was one or two male staff I'm aware of, young, very few mature people getting done for corruption.
Yeah.
Most of them young and most of them females. That is a fact. Strangeways, because it's high security, jail, less corruption or not as apparent. You know, your search procedures, your entry, exit and all this, you know, you'd be taking a bigger risk. Forest Bank, I could have walked in on a night shift with a bag full of drugs, phones, weapons, a gun. No mither. Just walk in with it.
As easy as that?
As easy, of course it is, mate. You know, people don't understand it's only a high security estate that have any entry, exit, search procedures anyway.
Yeah.
So, here's the thing about prisoners. My mate Karen Kenny, who was one of my nurse managers, said to me, she says, I think this is very rude and you'll understand what I'm going to say. She says, you have got something far more dangerous than good looks and money. And I said, what's that? The good looks bit, I think that was rude. However, she says charm. And guess what? A lot of prisoners have got charm, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? So, at Strangeways, the only people I know or can think of that got done for corruption, and that might not be, that don't necessarily mean they're bringing phones in. They might have prisoner contact, they might have prisoner numbers on the phone, they might be sending letters to a prisoners, whatever, inappropriate relationships, we're all female. That's not to say there is no males corrupt, but it does happen. Where do most relationships start in the workplace? Now, me and thee and all public know, in a fucking prison, you know, you shouldn't be having dealings with them, but it happens, mate. So corruption now will have gone up. No one's going to talk about it. Why are they employing youngsters? For me, I don't understand. I think if they work 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, they're gone. There's no pensions to pay out. Conditions are shite now. Money's shite.
Changes as well, innit?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, fucking
Extremely.
hell. Yeah.
I tell you what, I would not. My daughter, I would walk over hot coals every day and eat fucking glass rather than her go and do that job. I will tell you now.
Well, this second book I've written is about the last 10 years of my life since the film was released and how it's progressed and the changes and the things that have happened and my experience as well back in the prison system. Now I'm at an age where I'm quite mature, I'm observant, I can write pretty well at this stage, and I've looked around, Sam. Like, this is where I've read this second one. Sat down in a cell, I've looked around and thought, there's a lot of paranoid mental health going on here. People are getting slashed for fucking spice, for fun. People are running up and down, they're netting with, I've seen bog brushes up fucking people's arse with toilet rolls on the end of them on fire with a load of scallies fucking roaring off them, laughing at them for their fucking entertainment. And it's sickening, it is, it's being bullied, being humiliated, seeing this young kid who's just fucking desperate for one hit, will do anything, sell his fucking soul. I've watched it, Sam, and I read it, and to try and intervene was, it's like, I've experienced all like that over the years where, you know, I've been a rebel without a cause. I wanted to fight the underdog battles, and I've come off worse off, and I haven't been thanked for it.
There ain't many officers come off exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, I fell foul of that, mate. It's fucked. The prison system's fucked now. What my mate did say, he's still in job now, is probably 12 months before this pandemic, and this pandemic have calmed things down a little, simply because they're not opening big numbers of prisoners. However, he's now working with people who've been in job 2 years. They've never done an association with prisoners. They've never had prisoners on a landing.
No.
But, like you're saying, fighting battles and that, as a prison officer, there's no such thing as whistleblowing. No. I've come across more people since I left who've been brutalised and outcast, called scumbags, whores, you know, grasses. There's no such thing as whistleblowing. I fell foul of that when I was on K-Wing. We had a bad manager who was knocking fuck out of people for no reason. I'm not having that. Yeah. He tried to do it in front of me. Me and my mate ended up restraining him. Can you imagine that? You've got a senior officer in his office trying to bash someone, and me and another officer trying to restrain him. Yeah. The only thing that saved me, I had 6 months in that jail where people were, you know, slandering me, scumbag. The staff on K-Wing knew what were going off, and they started fighting my battles. One or two of them started putting people straight. People going, Cat A unit, lad on Cat A unit. Who's this fucking grass Samworth? My mate went up. What have you heard? No. SO's a fucking scumbag, knocking fuck out of people. So what he's doing is right.
So
and
you're getting called the grass by
but six months, everyone was turning their back on me.
Yeah.
You go on a wing, 6 staff, just fucking ignore you. I had one SO come up to me. I've got some really good friends in London, and down south, and I've said that for a reason. He was like a cockney. He come up to me, don't get involved in anything, on my wing, any restraints or anything like that, because we won't back you up. So I'm to go fuck himself, you know what I mean? It's terrible. It's not a good place. What you're saying, some big hitters on K-Wing when they're on there used to look after lads. It's changed now. My mate said it's really changed for the worse.
See what I've seen now, right? I've seen that there's a lot of domestic abuse, violence, kids coming in for beating up birds, right? Years ago,
Rapists on normal location.
Years ago, right, Sam? If you fucking laid your fingers on a bird and you went to Walton, you'd get fucking put on the numbers.
You would,
You'd be on the numbers, ends off, fuck off, numbers, shit back. Now, the landings and the prisons are full of them, right? I couldn't believe it. I was like shocked. Like, what the fuck? This kid's in there for fucking brutalising his birds. You read about them in the Echo, in the Liverpool Echo, and you think, what the fuck am I doing? Shitting next to this fucking kid here, you know what I mean? And you want, every fibre in your body wants a fucking arm, but
that prisoner's code's gone, hasn't it?
It's gone.
Whether it's right or wrong.
Whether it's right or wrong. But you know what, I picked up a lot of resentment, Sam, because I went into the prison system this final time. I don't know what it is, right? It's there's a whole big change. And for the first time in my prison career, and I'm not glamorising prison and the crimes I've committed, I made a difference. I changed, right? Never once went down a block, never once got a nick and never got a warning. Went right through that. I went straight.
Was there any sort of regime?
I was enhanced all the way through, right?
Yeah, fair dues.
So I go through the whole rigmarole of like, okay, I get sentenced to go to this prison, go to Walton, go to a Cat C, get me Cat C. Now whilst I'm in a Cat C, I'm on a drug-free wing. I want to keep my shit together. I want to be around positive people. Yep. I'm on a fucking wing full of screws who are letting people make hooch, smoke weed, cause fucking chaos. Kids pulling blades on each other. Right, this is supposed to be a safe environment. Yeah. So I've got a fucking issue with it, right? I'm challenging fucking staff members. What's going on? These are young. What's going on? Look, Bill, if you want to have a little bit of a recovery meeting going on, you can sort that out. So I started this meeting for kids on there that were fucked up on spice, they were on methadone, that wanted to get the shit together, so we can go to this meeting and recover as men and talk about how we fucking feel about fucking moving forward in our lives. I got my shell got spun at 11 o'clock at night, right? I had notes going in the box. I was getting spun all the time. I was getting accused. Staff. Yeah, I was getting accused, right, of being creating gang culture because of these meetings, because they were anonymous meetings, right? Nothing to do with fucking gang culture. I was getting piss tested, and I was negative, I was positive that everything was fucking going well. I was getting all this fucking thrown at me, right? So for the first time in my life, I was doing the right thing, and I was getting fucking brick walls put up against me all the time, right? I lost my cat tea. I had to fight with fucking complaints forms, and I was like, when you feel like you get nowhere, right? This is you
bang your head. You bang your.
Sam, I don't get it, right? When you're doing the right thing, you can't win for losing.
Right, it's dead easy. This my mate says this. A lot of young staff don't know how to talk to people, talking shit to people. You got people saying shit like they've told us in training, turn a blind eye to this. If somebody gets fucking filled in, they deserve it, all this bollocks. These young people, we've already said, corruption will go through the roof simply because the young, vulnerable people, naive people, the bullying, if they're not careful, come back. It'll definitely come back because they're impressionable.
Oh, well,
they're impressionable. If you come with me,
Yeah.
you come with me, right? This fucking twat's been on his cell bell all day. We'll show him. I go in, start film, bum bum bum, high fives.
Yeah.
My mate is sort of. I don't want to say anything to put him, compromise him. He's in a position now where he has a certain amount of control over how things are done. He can go back to people and say, no, that's shit. This ain't no good. This is no good. But he says it's out of control. You know, he couldn't be on a wing now because it's out of control. These people are fucking clueless. Mm-hmm. There's no dynamic security, staff-prisoner relationship. So when I was at K-Wing, 200 prisoners, I told you we had 36 gangbangers. Probably any two people, three people out of that 200 could have kicked it off. And there were 50, 60 of them. But we got on well with staff. There were a lot of fucking bend-ups. Do you know what? You get bent up and you were brought back to K-Wing. So it was dealt with on there. But that's because you had good relationships.
Yeah.
There's none of that now. He says that's gone. There's no staff-prisoner relationships. Nobody knows anybody.
No.
You don't know who's... On K-Wing, I knew who was in every cell. I knew a bit about them. Some of them, 15 years you've been locking them up or whatever. Yeah. So they know what you're like. They know if they want something sorting, they're going to miss Samworth.
Yeah.
Yeah? That's all gone, mate. That's why it's really dangerous place.
And there's no... And you said it before we started this interview about rehabilitation, right? There's no fucking rehabilitation, right? And this is from my observations, right? My personal observations, right? What I see is inmates getting put on methadone, maintained on it, right? These are coming in off the streets.
You're going to start me off here.
Right, they're coming in off the streets with a habit, right?
Yeah.
They get maintained all the way through the sentence, right?
Yeah.
Till a release, and then they're back on that cycle, right?
Yeah.
Fucking like we're going to live to use and use to live.
Yeah.
Criminality, right? In the middle of it, there's no like, there's no like, okay, we'll do shit, we'll do this, we'll do that. But I just got to a point where I got really fucking angry, right? Because I seen young kids who had dreams, who had hopes, and wanted to do something, but were fucking trapped. You know what I mean? Trapped by all this, and there was no support. And I had my role, right? Was I worked, right? This is what my role was, right? It was quite important. I worked at the newcomer centre, so every inmate that came into Walton prison, right? Yeah. I sat there and I spoke to them. So I was in front of them and I was telling them the regime and what was the do's and the don'ts, basically. Fucking talking about the spice endemic and, how to not fucking take goods off other people because you don't want to get in debt, and explaining to newcomers how fucking tough it could be if they didn't play the game. And I was in that position, and then you'd have drugs teams coming in and you could just see that they weren't fucking arsed. It was all about like, sign this, here's numbers, here's stats, we've got more people on our books. And I used to challenge them and go, what the fuck? And I was swearing a lot of it because I'm quite passionate about it.
Yeah, listen, when I lose my shit, I fucking...
But I'm quite passionate about people wanting to change their lives. Right, okay, prison, you go to prison, you're not going to prison because you've done a fucking good thing. No. You've done it because you've done something wrong, right? But we don't want to keep people in institutions. I'm not allowed them to change. Not nurture them, not show them that there's a new way of life. Give them mentors.
When have you ever done your rattle in prison? DF 118.
Fucking not half.
Right. So I talked about Forest Bank. Right, they come in DF 118s, guys. You can look it up. I don't need to look it up. 7-day rattle, maybe 5-day rattle. So if you're on heroin, you get these. That's all you get. You lock behind your door. Spend a lot of time behind your door. First 5-7 days. After that, boom, you walk out at cell. So at Forest Bank, I'd see lads come in rattling, yeah? I'd see them leaving in reception, yeah? Put a bit of weight on, couple of stone, been using gym, not using inside, yeah? That is when you get them. You need to get them when they're leaving them. Methadone coming at Forest Bank overnight, I think it held about 1,100 then, 400 on methadone, fucking joke. But what people don't understand with this methadone, I mean, have a look at it. Green, sticky, nasty looking liquid. It's no good that anyway. But in Strangeways, a lot of drug related deaths, they don't get reported as that. If somebody dies in prison, they're looking to blame the prison. Yeah. If you come in, you're on methadone and you're taking subbies, which has opposite effects, and you're taking diazepam off someone, and you're taking fucking someone's antipsychotics, and you die, that's my fault. As a prison officer, I'm at fault. So methadone for me is an absolute waste of time. It's a joke. Some of the nurses who used to work, detox nurses, were depressed. They knew what it was. They knew what they were dealing with. For me, bin it, go back to that hardcore rattle. But human rights and all that come in, didn't it?
Yeah.
So you can't let people spend 7 days behind the doors rattling. My cousin died when I got injured, 2015. My cousin, I had not seen the lad. We grew up together, still got fond memories of him. He was alcoholic. The only time he was healthy in his last 20 years was when he got out of Donny Nick. He went in Donny Nick. I don't know whether he did 18 months. Come out dry, sober. That's when that lad, somebody needs to grab hold of him, you know, in order for him to live a useful life. Drug addicts, same. You know, it's bollocks. It's absolute... Right, it does get me mad, this. A drug addict, alcoholic now, somewhere between 1,500, 2 grand a month if you're out.
Yeah.
Disability living allowance, they probably changed name.
Yeah,
so I'm giving you 2 grand. What are you going to do? You're going to fucking spend it on drugs.
That's what happens.
And then when you run out, you're going to rob.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, there you go, Bill, it's 2 grand.
See it all the time.
40 hours a week, Monday to Friday, you're going to turn up here.
Yeah.
Yeah? You're going to do a job, you're going to be useful, give them some purpose. You know what? A lot of them have never had that.
No.
And I'm sure if they did, they would turn up and do a job. But we don't. And the other thing is, people go, anything under 12 months, don't send them to prison. Yeah? So these lads my age used to be back every 3 months, do 6 months, do 3 months, do whatever. But every time they go out, they're robbing old biddies. So these thousands of pensioners that can't sleep at night, shit scared in their own home. So saying don't send them to prison, you need to be doing something with them.
Exactly.
It's the damage they do to people's lives.
Especially when they maintain them. I remember, right?
It's bollocks.
I went to my first prison was Inley. I was 16 years old. I was a heroin addict at 16 years old. Right. I was taken to Hindley prison. This is the first time I never knew when the shit hit the fan. Put me in a cell. Seen the doctor first. Told me to drop me undies. Cut me balls and say cough. What the fuck that was going to achieve, I don't know. Right.
Cough and drop.
Cough and drop. Get the pad. Couple of paracetamol. I was given no kind of medication, nothing to fucking reduce the feelings that I was fucking feeling. It was horrible. It was fucking painful. I was behind the door for a week, right before I got bail, and it was a fucking nightmare. You know what I mean? That was the kind of stuff.
Were you dry when you come out? Were you like?
But you know, and it sort of gave me an head start. It gave me a little bit of a chance, right? A little bit of a chance to go. Do you know what? I can do this. And for anyone out there, it's like. I used, like I said, and I didn't want to use, and I used to change the way I felt. I couldn't deal with the relationships.
Did you not think of using something else then, or
well,
drinking?
I did.
Or drinking,
I progressed from cannabis and I snowballs into heroin. My dad drank a lot, right? So I promised my mother I wouldn't drink and I'd never be like him. But I fucking was. I was like him, but on drugs. And you know. There's no. I've got to take responsibility. I'm not here to blame. I'm quite aware. In the early days, you know, I blamed everyone, but I'm quite aware of my own behaviour. I didn't realise you had choices back then, Sam. I never knew what a choice was. Right.
Well, a lot of people don't see them choices, do they? Because you're always going to have a choice, but.
And I first got clean in 2004, right? And I stayed clean for years. No, my journey wasn't straight. Had a few relapses on the way. Had a few like emotional breakdowns. I couldn't cope with feelings. Didn't know what to deal. Because what happens, and this is for anyone who's watching this, for those people that take drugs at an early age, say I took drugs at like 15, I maintained that age up until I stopped. So by the time I was 30 and I was in a recovery way of living, I was still acting like a teenager. I hadn't grown up and emotionally matured. Now, most of these people who were in prison, right, you know yourself, Sam, that are in the 30s and in the 40s are still acting like the fucking 18. You know what I mean? On the landings, kicking off.
Well, It's because it's... Listen, once you've stepped through the door in prison for the very first time, prison is not a deterrent. Me, I was shit scared of going to prison. I've on reflection now, this year, I have looked back so many times I could have been in prison. Not for doing, not for beating pensioners up or shit like that, but things I were doing that, weren't acceptable.
Yeah.
But the fact is that people never understand, once you've gone in, no one's scared of prison no more.
No.
It doesn't stop you going out and doing armed robberies or anything else, it's gone.
No. Not the kind of prisons
it becomes very normal.
The prisons that we've got today, and the conditions that we're under is like, you're fucking eating sugar puffs and, PlayStations and Xboxes, TVs. Was that? Do you think that's...
No.
That helps? Seriously? I mean...
No, I don't. Right, so, again, going back to my mate, pandemic. Yeah, a lot of fucking bang up now. And he's not the only one. Talking to people in different prisons, civvies, different people are looking at it, different angles. Now, they've got used to it. They've got used to the bang up. They're not kicking off as much. There's a lot of hostility. Fucking hell. When he opens the door, my mate says it's just hostile. However, they've got used to it, and they do. So, if they're out 10 hours a day, they get used to that. You take it off them, they get used to whatever in prison. There's nothing. At end of the day, if you go to prison, you can get degrees. You can get what you want. You can get educated if you do a long time in. It doesn't mean you're going to settle when you get out. It doesn't mean you're going to get a fucking fantastic job.
No.
Once people have gone to prison, there's a stigma attached, and it's always going to be there. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't send as many people, but they need to be doing something. There's a guy on Twitter I follow, right? Bless him. Super positive, about drugs. We all know the people who get locked up are people at the bottom. The people at the top very rarely get locked up. So, the people who we should be helping is who we're banging up. But you need to do something with him. I keep saying that to him.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, mate, but not sending him to prison for 3 months and not doing anything with him is not going to help anything, because he'll take his $2,000 and still rob people.
Yeah, but you've got to understand as well, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make
exactly. This is the whole point.
And like, there's like a debate here. We can talk about, I had to meet someone halfway. Right, I had someone, but what I needed was someone who had that empathy.
When you were inside?
Yeah, someone to say to me, you know what, Bill? It was down the block, and I was in Army Leeds that had enough. And literally, this kid next door had killed himself, and the week before that, the kid before at that side had killed himself. I felt at a loss. I felt lonely. I wasn't getting any letters. I didn't have any private cash. I couldn't use the phone. No one gave a fuck about me. That's where it was going. Yeah. Because of my behaviour, right? Because of the way I behaved, and it was fucking crucifying me. And I knocked hard when the door had opened. Yeah. That door had shut. And I'd been myself, and I couldn't escape, and I felt really lonely and upset. I remember this little Arab fella from Yorkshire. Go to the door every night. Night cocky, how are you? Are you okay? How are you feeling? Just asking simple questions. And that bit of human contact, he said, why don't you get your shit together, lad? Why don't you do something with your life? And just little chats. And it was like, I used to go away and think, fucking nice that he's done that, you know what I mean? There's no motive. He doesn't want to beat me up.
That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
You're telling me that's nice that he did that, yeah? Which it is. But it should be like that all the time.
Exactly, yeah.
It's the us and them bit, isn't it? A lot of people, let's talk about this very short. Right, so people I work with weren't bullies. Yeah, I've worked with people who've been in job a long time. Sometimes they might ignore what we're going on. So Alan Lord, I've seen him say that all screws are fucking bad. Because if you know something's bad's going on, you're not doing out about it. Well, let me tell you, we all got to work, whatever job you do, for money and stuff like that. People get in that job and they are fearful. There's no whistleblowing in prison service still. It's intimidating. There's a lot of staff bullying. It's not the best job in the world, obviously, but a lot of people, it gives them security. I've worked with people who did 35 years of not helping nobody, not helping a prisoner, not helping another member of staff, and spending all their career drinking alky, just a bum. Do you know what I mean? 35 years in job. It doesn't deal with people who aren't suitable. Very few people get sacked. Most people I see that have been drummed out of that job, people like me who've bubbled someone, and people turn against them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that human contact, so I'm now meeting people I used to lock up, so I know I made a difference. There's one lad, he's an ex-IPP prisoner, he's struggling, we talk all the time, I've met him quite a few times, yeah, and he says, just talking to you and looking, you know, your life and where you are and stuff like that, I had, about 2 weeks ago, I was absolutely fucking made up, mate. I got up in the morning, I got a message, I get loads of messages. Kieran Smith, if you watch this, Kieran, between Forest Bank and Strangeways, I worked in a kids' home about 18 months, so Kieran were one of the kids in there, he was 10, 11 years old. When we were out one day, there were me and 3 kids, one of them winding him up, he threw a brick, size of a cricket ball, hit me inside the head, he remembered that. But he sent me a message now, he's like 26, 27, 28, he's got a kid of his own, sent me a message 2 weeks ago, Sam, I don't really remember me, Kieran, you used to look after me at kids' home, just want to thank you for everything I did. Do you know what I mean? Bit of a tear in eye. He's now on my Facebook friends, I like that, I can see him, see what he's doing, but you do not realise what difference you make to people's lives. But what you said about that one officer talking to you, there's no reason why it can't be like that. But
and a few
the culture, it's because of the culture, mate. I work with some people who'd be just like that. The reason a lot of them drink and there's a lot of divorce and stress is they're not themselves. How many times people have said to me, "Oh, she's a different person when she's out," and I'm like, "Why?" He is. Why?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's the culture, mate.
I met a female member of staff in Walton when I first went in there, asked her for a job. She gave me one eventually, and I used to hear her screaming. Everyone hated her, and some people liked her. She had one of those love and hate things. But when I sat down and she spoke to me, she was the most caring person you could ever meet, and I understood that the job was quite difficult, especially on the newcomers unit. And she's become a friend of mine. I've been invited a few times into the prison and gave talks to her mates, and I've enjoyed it. I do it in low course, I've done it in Walton. But she's even similar to yourself. There's a few and far between. Younger members of staff, they're quite easily manipulated.
I tell you what's really strange, right? So obviously the book come out. Some people will never speak to me again. You know, they're on my Facebook or whatever, so to block me. You hear stuff what they say, you know, that's up to them. A lot of people I work with believe that it was wrong to bring a book out and say this stuff happens, you know, try and call you out.
Yeah.
The people who are, or a good deal of people I really get on with and who have messaged me about the book are people I work with at Forest Bank, people I work with at Strangeways who I didn't necessarily get on with. There's one lass, yeah, she read the book, she said, I bought your book, I thought that's going to go down well. So she's mentioning it, she'll know, she knew it was her when she sent me a message after. She said, I really enjoyed it, you know, wish you all the best, bum, bum, bum. She knew I was talking about her in not a good light. A few messages from people at Forest Bank I didn't get on with, you know, wishing me well, which is really strange. At Strangeways, people who were a lot of people who were my friends, and you know, they wouldn't acknowledge that I was ever there, sort of thing. So, and it's because of that culture. It's still a macho culture.
Yeah.
I've heard some really bad shit about people who train prison officers need to be people of good moral standing and with integrity, and quite often they're not. And you know, telling people that, you know, if someone gets filled in and giving staff a hard time, that's acceptable. And I've no doubt some people are going to tell that.
No, and I've heard it. I've heard staff have said,
but we have to go back. There's still lots of people in job, well, not so many, who are good people, but that I honestly believe now there's not enough to make a difference. I think where it is now, what was it like in 2017 when you went? Did you notice a massive change? You know?
What I noticed was
you went in with a different attitude, didn't you?
I was clean. I was in recovery.
That's what I mean. So you're not necessarily. I spoke to a lad who's just been in prison. He's been in a long time. it's really awkward when they call him Mr. Samworth or Mr. S all the time. He said, call me Sam. And they still drop back into the Mr. S. I don't know whether that's respect or whatever. However, he said, I've just done 12 months. I've not spoke to no fucker. I've not asked staff for anything. He says they're distant. Lots of young staff, lots of people barking orders. He said after the first week, thought, fuck this, I'm just going to get my head. I've not asked for nothing.
If you're a face or if your face fits, right, you seem to get somewhere, don't you? I've noticed that. If you're just someone who's not
You
known,
mean as a prisoner?
yeah.
I think now there's just nothing. He said, what I found was I'd ask somebody to sort something out and he'd promise, you'd ask him, third time I'm asking, he said, just give up on
Do you
it.
think all the staff members give it all like the cleaners jobs to like big lads and people who can handle
We used
themselves?
to, on K-Wing,
Yeah.
fucking hardest bastards on wing were cleaners.
Yeah.
You know, every gangster, hard lad I've ever come across
Was a cleaner.
has been a cleaner or on savoury. The orderlies used to have on healthcare 7 years. I picked pretty much most of them. We had maybe 2 dodgy ones, you know, who we ended up getting rid of.
Yeah.
Some proper big hitters, well-known, you know, animals. And they were sadly, there's one lad, he's the only lad, One Punch, if you ever see this, I don't know whether he's out now, called Paul Doyle. I'm not bothered what anyone says about him. He's been a big gangster in Salford for a long time. He's called One Punch for obvious reasons. When I first noticed him before we got him as a cleaner, he got fucking massive forearms like Popeye. Not a trained boxer, but obviously in his time. And he come to work on there, and the conversations were like, the flow. I asked him about his criminality, and, you know, they tell you about his missus. You know, he says, my missus sits up every night. She sleeps in day when I'm up thinking about people coming through the door. He's the only person I've ever met, ever. I said to him, right, let's go back. On reflection, criminality. He says, when I was 15, Miss Samworth, and I come out of kids' home, my mum put 2 in care. I had 6 brothers, 2 of us in care. He says,
Camera's gone off.
is that one still going?
Yeah.
He says, I set out to be a criminal, to make the most money, sell most drugs. He says, so I don't regret one single thing. I got on really well with him. I wouldn't want to meet him up out. I wouldn't want to fight him. None of that. But on that, he was super respectful to staff. He was great round prisoners. And you see a human side to people. And you just wonder, you know, if they'd have gone up right path, where they'd have ended up.
And on that note, we'll thanks Sam. We'll have to do this again. Brilliant.
Billy, lots we haven't covered, definitely.
Definitely.